journalism entails. So we give credit where it's due. Journalism requires research. Journalism requires knowledge. Journalism requires you being in touch with what is happening today. So we give credit where it's due. Now, I want to talk about Ruto's speech and the answers that he gave. I'm going to just focus on the things that he was trying to throw out. First, guys, I want to tell you that Ruto has no remorse. I'm just going to analyze his character first before I answer some questions. This is my analysis of the whole thing. Number one, he has no remorse. He feels nothing for the children and the women and the men that died during the protests. He has nothing. He feels nothing. Then he does not want the police who actually participated in extrajudicial killings to be held responsible for what they did. He thinks that the police should also be defended and should be protected while they were actually shooting on unarmed citizens who were practicing their democratic rights, picketing, protesting, petitioning, and actually going to the streets to actually ask questions to a government that is harming its citizens is the right of every Kenyan. There is no need for the police to use force on people who are protesting on the streets of Kenya. The constitution gives us that right. So Ruto did not want to speak directly. He also did not answer the questions about accountability, especially when the case in point, that child that was highlighted that had bullets, almost 8 bullets shot into them. Ruto evaded that question. He made sure he started saying the way citizens went into Ngong Forest and took, I don't know, the gun from police, and maybe those citizens are the ones. This is a person that hates accountability. This is a person that does not take responsibility for the actions of a police, a force that he is the commander-in-chief. He needs to take action and accountability. He refuses to accept that fact. Now, all the questions that he was asked, he never really answered anything precisely. He dodged every question. He never went directly to answer his question. But now I'm going to talk about 3 major things, which I think Kenyans should be aware of. Number one, Ruto talked about the debt that Kenya has. And he talked about paying 1 trillion in salaries. Guys, we are in a very dark place. If a president can be using the earnings for money that we are getting from taxes to actually pay salaries in the tune of 1 million trillion. Do you guys realize how sick that is? Ruto, instead of coming to deliberate and talk about industrialization in the county levels so that revenue comes in, he still talks about debts and talks about financial budgets without talking about the revenue that is coming in from the counties. Kenya is a county that is run and is divided into 47 counties. We need to have the counties bringing in money. We don't need taxes from Kenyans being given back to the counties. Why can't the counties feed themselves? We need counties bringing in revenue. Can we have a budget where we are being told how much each and every county is bringing? Can we see the differences in revenue from the county levels? If we are talking about farming and we are talking about industrialization, Ruto is so obsessed with potatoes. Ruto is so obsessed with housing. He talks about potatoes all the time and China. He talks about housing like a lunatic. That is not the only thing that Kenyans think about. That is not the only thing that we can produce. We have the Western Kenya regions that produces things that are different. We have fish industries in Kenya. We have meat. There are people who actually have meat, cattle, people who are actually doing other things apart from potatoes. We have the tea in Kericho. Why are we not talking about industrialization in terms of debt ceilings and money that we need to bring into our country? This is a man that does not understand economics. This is a man that does not understand how to actually beat the debt that Kenya has. He talks about paying workers more money money to the tune of trillions, yet he also uses about a half of the revenue we get to pay other debts that are not in the country. Guys, if you have 3 trillion and you have industries that are struggling, that can bring in revenue, what do? Do you pay your debt, or you ask for more time to pay the debt by wazungus, and you pump in money to the industries in Kenya so that we can generate more money? You guys, do you understand what I'm saying? We have a president that is willing to pay debt to wazungus that depleted our economy, depleted our country and our resources because we borrowed from them, but he cannot take the same money to pump into our industries so that we can have more revenue. Because if Ruto takes 1 trillion or 2 trillion Kenya shillings and puts it into the countries that are industrious, we have the tea industries, we have sugarcane industry, we have people who are doing farming, nyama, textile. Guys, if this money is put in our industries at the county level with proper organization, this money is going to be able to bring back revenue where this money can actually pay off the debt that we have while also creating employment and improving the livelihoods of Kenyans. Why is this president so obsessed with paying debt to white people? What for? And TikTok, please, this live does not contain any harassment. I'm talking about our country and corruption in my country, Kenya. I'm talking about neocolonialism and why it's important that we have these conversations. What is driving Ruto in his head today is neocolonialism. Let me tell you guys, that finance bill was driven by Ruto's desire to please the West. Ruto is so obsessed with pleasing the West. He wants to make sure that people who want to see him as a good person because they are bringing in money that is driving us into debt. Ruto is so obsessed with making sure America sees Kenya in a good way, or the Europe sees us in a good way. He doesn't care about us. That's why he keeps borrowing and pleasing these people. The colonial masters, they are still here with us. Neocolonialism at its best. This man is willing to pay a debt kwa watu weupe na madaktari wetu. Our doctors are at home. This man is willing to pay a debt to people who ensured that we are in this place while we have doctors at home. We have clinical officers at home. We have our whole medical sector going down. But he's willing to pay 2 trillion debt out of our revenue. Guys, come on. We have a sick person in the presidency. And we need to be very, very aware that we cannot relent. We cannot relent because Kenyans are dying. If they are not going to be dying through protests, if they are not going to be dying because of hunger, Kenyans are going to be dying because they cannot access medical services. Mere medical services. The infant mortality rate, yani, you guys, maternal deaths, HIV prevalence, it has doubled since this man went into office. This man has been in office only for 2 years. And our country is crippled in debt. This man is insane. Now, this man talks about budget cuts in his office and everything else, that he's gonna scrape off the first lady, I don't know which lady office, and that his salaries and everything. Listen, guys, I'm gonna tell you for a fact, there is no freaking way that Ruto is going to take away salaries of members of parliament without legislation. He can't. There is no salary this man is going to cut without legislation. And you guys understand, the parliamentarians we have today, those are the ones who are perfectly okay with those salaries. How are they going to pass that legislation? Muniambie, if you want to know you're dealing with a liar, you mean that Parliamentarians that wanted to vote yes for more taxes are now going to vote yes for their salaries to be cut. Chekesha. You guys, we are dealing with a dictator. Think about it. It's not going to happen. Let me tell you what is happening now. There have been abductions in our country. The world needs to know that the Kenyan government is abducting people. People are being abducted in their homes. The police is using force to actually eliminate the youth that are raising concerns about the dictatorship in this country. And this is what we need to do as the people in the diaspora, because a lot of Kenyans are asking what the people in the diaspora are doing. If you are in the diaspora, what you need to do is put your money in the Law Society of Kenya, put your money in the human rights organizations in Kenya. Please donate to those organizations in Kenya so that they can represent the Kenyans that are being held hostage and are being arrested by the police unlawfully. We need these people protected. These organizations depend on funding. And please, watu weupe, watu wa America, all these Americans that are climbing X-Space, Twitter, to pretend that they care about Kenyans. If you are in America, you are an American. Na we ni mtu mweupe, the white people climbing those spaces and joining our journalists and are claiming that they care about Kenyans. Put your money in the organizations that have been helping the activists on the ground. Put your money into the organizations that have been saving the lives of the activists and standing in to represent them in court. The activists that have been using the safe houses to protect real activists. And for that, nawambia, na mukai rada nimewambia, I have been in activism long enough. Be very wary of Boniface Mwangi. Boniface Mwangi is a government stooge. He works for every government in Kenya. Beware of Boniface Mwangi. Oh, did not say I did not tell you. Boniface Mwangi is the activist that is being used by Kenyan governments to look good in the eyes of the international community. That is why Boniface Mwangi never gets killed. That is why Boniface Mwangi family is always flying out. They are always safe. Nothing ever happens to him while he insults the government and put posts to insult everybody else in the government. He is the only activist in Kenya that has never, ever been eliminated. Neither has his family been harmed, because he earns and eats with the same government. And I've told you guys, because I have been in protest with this man and I know how he operates. Then he goes to take pictures. He is the only person that is being escorted with a huge convoy of KDF and Kenya police. He takes these pictures, then he applies for funding to talk about the situation in Kenya. Guys, we must be aware of the traitors amongst us. We must be aware. This is a man that has benefited on the back of protesters in Kenya. While protesters die each and every day, protesters get eliminated. People get to disappear in Kenya. He is the only one that is always being protected in Kenya. Boniface Mwangi eats with the government in place. And I've told you, he ate with Uhuru's government, he is eating with Ruto's government, and he will continue to eat on your backs. What he does, he stays on the forefront to take pictures, anapiga mapicha, anachukua mavideo, na yeye ndio huwa anajisalimisha kila siku kwa serikali na hawawi. Mukue rada, nimewambia. That was just a by the way. This government depends on international funding. And for it to get the money from international funding, it has to look good in the eyes of human rights internationally. And that is why Boniface Mwangi keeps on surviving.